Howdy, howdy, everybody, and welcome back to another Lord of Heroes video. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the global PvP tier list. Now, in this video, I'm only going to go over heroes that have been seen in the top 100 in global. So if it's heroes that we don't have access to, like the Green Arslan, for instance, we're not going to talk about those heroes in particular, or heroes that we do have access to but no one uses, like this blue Charlotte here. We're not about to talk about those heroes, but we're going to talk about the ones that's commonly used, including the ones that are doing really well. So let's get it cracking. All right, first I'm going to start off at the bottom in C tier with the Red Venessa. A lot of people are using the Red Venessa for their progression. She's great. I don't think she does enough for you to be able to use her on your defense, but if she's all you have and you're pushing to get rank, then chances are, there you go, she's there. So this is why she's C tier. B tier, commonly used, kind of have the same problems that the Red Vanessa have, but are slightly better. I had a tough time with Zaira if I was going to put her in A tier, kind of like how I had Fram, because like our very first week of playing, there was a lot of Zaira Fram comps. Like people was literally ascending Zaira and Fram and had them decently built, and it had me scared. I like lost a few times, and we started off in a really tanky meta before people started to get fast. It was more of a tank meta, which still sort of kind of tanky with a few outliers that are like really winning the speed game, but there are still people running like Zaira and Fram on their defenses. I put Fram in A tier personally just because she has an AoE stun, and the you barely kill a team or don't kill a team at all because they were just a little bit too tanky, even though you might have took first turn, and Fram moves could be curtains for your team afterwards, especially if a crit is landed. We got the light Johan and also the green Charlotte here in the B tier. Green Charlotte, I was using myself on defense. I don't think she's like insanely great, but in between, in a situation where you might get cut and you get a decent amount of burst, she might be able to land a good shield that protects your team long enough for you to be able to survive. Granted, you got her built pretty fast. And like Johan, I mean, AoE damage, if you do have him on crit, he possibly can give you that extra AoE burst of damage, which will be great. Other than that, there's really no other reason for him. He might even be C tier in my opinion, but I just put him in B just because he does have an AoE damage start. In the A tier, like I said, Fram being able to get that AoE stun is insane. I see Zaira doing a little more damage, but Fram definitely, that's pretty insane. I know a lot of people are running the Blue Vanessa. Some people even have her second Ascended, which is crazy. And they're running her basically as a fail safe. Like if they build her tanky enough and you wipe their team and she gets a turn, she pretty much just brings everything back to life. Your skills is going to be on cooldown unless you have a really good burst that can AoE damage everything after you get turns. Then you might be in trouble going up against Blue Vanessa. Not quite good enough to make it to the S tier, but not that bad that she will be anything lower than A tier. Now we're starting to see Olivia start to rise in popularity. She is great. I ain't came across some that completely decimated my team. The green Olivia can push you back, especially if she's built really fast, like maybe even take first turn fast, where she'll go before your booster, or maybe just after your booster, where she can push you back or hit that AoE slow, which will in turn like make you slightly slower, so that gives a chance for the enemy to get turns as well, which can be devastating. And she built for damage, she does a decent amount of damage that can just wipe you out. And damage in this game scale is extremely high, so like being tanky doesn't do much the further we progress our gear. Then I'm starting to see people pick up Dark 9 because people are starting to progress past the hard mode. I believe you get him at the final chapter after 8-5. I believe he comes about 8-5, where you're able to unlock and get him. I have him fully built on my old main. Really great cleave. The having the sap on top of it can do a good job for you. I haven't really seen him do a lot yet in the meta, but he's definitely A tier in my opinion so far for what we have. As we start seeing more heroes rise up and more people start pushing, he might go down to B tier, but for now, he's definitely a solid A tier hero for your AoE damage. Now, for your single damage here, we have both the Dirty Bird, that's my guy right there, the Dirty Bird, and Trashed It. Astrid, I mean. For the Dirty Bird, it's a few people using him outside of myself. If he gets a turn, chances are something's dying. Especially like mine is real slow. I don't want him slow, but he's kind of slow. So by the time he move, we have enough burst for him to just one shot whoever on the enemy side. So in a situation like that, he's pretty much going to completely decimate at least one target. The same with Astrid. Like she can more likely do the same. She still can remove the buff. She can eliminate one target if possible. So they definitely both get A tier there. They both have ignore defense on their burst, so they are good enough to get A tier in that right because they can snipe a target. All right, now for the S tier. Now the S tier is mostly for the pay to win, whale type people, somewhat. We'll go all the way into Helga. We have Helga all the way here at the S tier because everybody's building Helga. I don't really have to say much about how strong she truly is, the power that she brings and everything, because she's definitely at the top of the meta right now. We see some of the more pay to win players, some of the whales, dolphins, guppies, and everything in between starting to pick up on the blue pup. Now Schneider, the blue one, is definitely great. He's a little bit better than Helga, especially for the PvP sense, just because he's able to reduce turn burst. So if you have something like the green Mah-Lon here to push your team ahead of the enemy, then you have the blue Schneider to pull the enemy team away from you, then it just allows you to cycle more turns and get more damage out. I'm even considering building him myself. Also at the top of the meta, we have the Dark Rosanna, which is one of the paid heroes right now that you can purchase. For the most part, I'm not putting on a lot of the tier lists I have heroes in that are paid because I mean if they're not in then you can't get them, but since this is PvP, this is based off of what is being used. So for the people that do have her, expect to see a lot of her if you're pushing into the top 100. Once we get another week in or so and get Chrome and everybody start evening out, you're going to be in good position to combat these Dark Rosannas. But keep in mind, if she bursts and provoke your team, you might be up for a rude awakening, something that Chrome can't do. But she's definitely high meta, like probably the number one pick to have just because how great she is. And then next to her will probably be the red Johan. I remember so many people hating on him, like so tough, but he's like definitely high end meta for the global compared to the Korean. The same with Dark Rosanna. Like you see them, but just not that much because they already have so many other heroes built up fully that they don't really need those. But just being able to get that AO, it's not even his heal on the AoE when he crits, it's getting the crit buff and the crit damage buff on top of that for your team. So having him fast and a lot of crit, being able to get that up, and he can possibly wipe a team because he does do some pretty good damage too. Granted, you can get the sub stats and just the stats overall for him to be able to dish out damage. The red Johan is great to be in your formation and in your team lineup, because once he gets out his skill, gets that little bit damage. Let's say if you had blue Helga or the blue Schneider to clean up afterwards, they pretty much guaranteed a crit because they got the crit buff and extra damage on top of the crit damage. And being that they're strikers, they ignoring defense. On top of it, when you have the peer set and get that extra crit damage, it's like busted, broken. Let's talk about a couple of the single target dealers, the snipers, the Dark Mikhail and the Fire Astrid. We're gonna start with Dark Mikhail. Now, it's already been known that Mikhail has been an in-game PvP tool, and there are a few players that is using him and using him well, where he will snipe a target. He's definitely gonna be super fast and a glass cannon. So he's gonna come in, remove somebody real quick, and keep it moving. Same with the Fire Astrid. I've had situations where The match starts. They Rosanna moves before my Rosanna. They fire Astrid moves. She one shots my Mah-Lon because I mean attribute advantage over her, and it's like, whoa, okay, there goes my booster. And that kind of happens like that. She can definitely remove a target pretty fast, pretty well. All right, now let's look at Red Pup. He he's one that I built early on my old main, and he's definitely really strong. He self-sufficient in his capability of dishing out damage not only on his first skill but his AoE second skill to heal himself, and then he's a striker, so that's damage on top of that. I don't know if I would say he's better, but for PvP, I don't think I would say he's better than the Blue Pup, but like maybe progression wise, extreme, or just like farming capabilities since he can heal himself. He doesn't necessarily need someone to support him. He's definitely better in that sense. Maybe if you don't have a lot of damage and you going like a tank fight, you coming up against a couple Frams and Zairas, then he might be a little bit better in that regard. But I'm seeing a few of those starting to pop up. Not nothing too devastating. Generally, I'm dying to other stuff if he is in the team before he gets a chance. But then we have the Blue Olivia here. Now the Blue Olivia here is definitely a unique one. She has a AoE Death Break, which is great for your heroes that aren't strikers, that aren't getting that extra damage through piercing. So she definitely can help with it with setting up the cleave and that aspect. Really good hero, strong herself in the damage that she can deal, and then since she's a sniper, she's giving you burst gauge, which can result into devastating damage later from one of your other heroes. The red Yashua, super strong in his utility. Is pretty much he moves, he gives the DPS on your team, the attack buff and the invincibility. Even if you move, you can't kill them. If they're an AoE dealer that does really insane damage, like the Light Olivia, that's pretty much GG scoop next fight. And that's pretty much what his position is just to make sure your damage dealer gets their turn and kill something, or at least dish out damage to something. Then we got the Light Olivia. If you come across her and she moves before you, next fight because you lost. All right, moving on. Now we got the Green Laphlaes. Green Laphlaes is really strong too. I believe it's really his burst where he shines at. I'm not sure how great he is in PvP. I put him here in S tier just because I know he's stupid strong in the amount of damage he can do. I've synced a couple, but they didn't make it. Like they never got a turn to really see what they're capable of. But every Olivia user that I see, if you got the money to get Olivia, chances are you got the money to get a lot of gear. A lot of gear. So there's no reason for you not to be fast enough to be able to outspeed. And then she takes a turn and does over 36,000 damage to my whole entire team, even my Rosanna, who has damage reduction. So, with that being said, and I believe that's everybody currently on the tier list. So I definitely want to say if you guys like I'm going to try my best every week to keep this list updated as more heroes are introduced into the meta, as some heroes rise in power, fall in power. We're going to make those kind of changes. So if you would like to know more about the PvP meta and what's going on in the top 100 ranks, make sure you smash that like button. Subscribe for more Lord of Heroes content coming in the future. So, this is your host, Gamer Dude 2088, signing out. Much love to you all. God bless. Deuces.